You're not superstitious, you're just a little stitious. So you and everyone else knows not to walk under ladders, the consequences of breaking a mirror, and to avoid black cats at all costs. But unfortunately, there are many more lesser-known superstitions around the world that you could be violating right now. Are you cursing yourself, literally, by not watching on? It's the countdown of the world's most bizarre superstitions. First on the list, we've got a spooky lesson in manners. We were all told not to speak with our mouths full, but there's an old Dutch superstition that singing at the dinner table attracts evil spirits. Folklorists have documented singing at the table superstitions in other places too, including Bohemia and North Carolina. There are a number of possible origins of why the dinner table became a no-sing zone. Either a child with big dreams of becoming a pop star was so bad at singing that their parents resorted to inventing this superstition, or someone insisted on singing so badly during supper that it gave everyone nightmares. That's probably it. No, don't, is something you might hear when you're about to break a superstitious rule. But this next one is more of a no doy. Once the sun sets in Japan, Korea, India, and Turkey, you are strongly advised not to cut your nails. In Turkey and India, it's considered bad luck. But in Japan, a nighttime trim puts you at risk of ending your life prematurely. And then there's Korea. The story goes that if you cut your nails in the dark, the clippings will fall on the floor and rats will eat them, which causes them to turn into a monster version of you and terrorize you in your bed. Or how about don't do it because you'll cut them too short, which is a bigger nightmare than a rat monster in my opinion. For most superstitions, the source of the stish doesn't totally deserve their reputation. A crack doesn't want to be stepped on, it wants to be fixed, and a black cat can't help being black. But we have no sympathy for what's next on our list. Whistling. Whistling stinks, so no wonder it's believed that whistling will cause all sorts of trouble. In Turkey, it's believed that whistling at night summons the devil. Makes sense. We challenge you to listen to someone whistling at night and not be creeped out. In Estonia and Latvia, it is widely believed that whistling indoors may bring bad luck and therefore set the house on fire. And in Russia, whistling can lead to financial ruin, and it's pretty clear why. Whistling attracts dogs. You whistle inside, a pack of dogs comes running, they dig holes in your yard, tear up the pillows, and do you know how much it costs to feed 20 to 30 stray dogs? Enough to financially ruin most people, that's for sure. Also, some people can't whistle, and they feel pretty self-conscious about it, so why doesn't everyone agree to just not whistle, okay? Giving a thumbs up is commonly considered a good thing, like when you're giving a positive movie review or when you're letting everybody know you're okay when you've got the wind knocked out of you. But that's not always the case in Japan, where if you're ever in a cemetery or near a funeral procession, you had better tuck away your thumb. That's because the Japanese word for thumb directly translates to parent finger, so tucking it into your fist protects your parents from the spirit of death. Trust us, your parents will arigato you. Additionally, it's always smart to have your fist ready in a cemetery, in case you encounter any ghouls. Next on this list is a lesson in doing too much. Everything gets pretty gray and dreary during stormy weather, and if you've ever watched a makeover show or read a fashion magazine, you know that dark, muted tones can always use a pop of color. But if you're braving the elements in the Philippines, it's best not to wear red. There's a Filipino superstition that it increases your chances of being struck by lightning. It makes sense. You're making yourself a fun little moving target for the gods. So unless you want to roll the dice that a jolt from the heavens turns you into a superhero, best to lean toward the cooler side of the color spectrum. People in South Korea, mostly from older generations, believe that sleeping in a room with an electric fan and the door closed will leave you dead by morning. Millennials report waking up in the morning after a hot night to discover their parents had opened their doors. A conspiracy says that the superstition picked up speed in the 1970s when the energy-strapped South Korean government released anti-fan propaganda to discourage people from using up electricity all night. According to the theory, a fan's blades chop up oxygen, turning it into carbon dioxide, making the air impossible to breathe and therefore fatal. Also, a fan blowing on you all night can make your body temperature drop so low that it causes hypothermia, then death. Every summer to this day, South Korean newscasters and grandmothers warn about fan death to anyone who will listen. From a government consuperstiracy in South Korea, now to a spiracy in Turkey that is so super, nobody bothers to question it. If you've got a big date at Istanbul's hottest new restaurant, you should probably stick to mouthwash to freshen your breath. That's because there's a Turkish superstition that once the sun goes down, chewing gum turns into the human flesh of the dead. Though nobody knows the true origin of this story, again, it's best to heed the warning since chewing human flesh is typically a deal breaker. Never has a superstition been as wholesome as this one from Iceland, which asserts that knitting outdoors during the winter will prolong the season. The weather plays a big part in the lives of Icelanders, so there's many myths and superstitions around it. But knitting? Long ago, that old Icelandic snow god must have conjured up a nice tough winter, only to look down to see a little old lady casually knitting on her stoop. The nerve! Knitting on your stoop is actually forbidden in Iceland, so please take the scarf you've been working on for months inside. Watch out, groundhog! Granny Helga is moving in on your turf. Eating your words will never taste as good as the time you spend New Year's Eve in Spain, where instead of announcing your resolutions, it is a tradition to eat, or at least attempt to eat, a dozen grapes, one per second, while the final 12 seconds of the year tick away. If you manage to chew and swallow all 12 grapes, and people do check, then you will have good luck in the new year. If you aren't able to chew all 12, you'll have bad luck, which probably means you're going to choke on the grapes. But wait, does choking give you bad luck? Or does the bad luck make you choke? Usually when you violate a superstition, someone will tell you not to worry. It's not the end of the world, unless you're in India during a solar eclipse. In which case, sorry, no, the world is pretty much ending. It is widely believed that the sun's rays become toxic during the event, so everyone stays inside. Cars pull off the road, some stockbrokers stop trading, and the local newspapers report on the event, warning people to stay indoors. Some people even fast for the entire day, fearing that the sun's rays may have poisoned their food. At the same time, and completely inconsistent with the above, some people believe that bearing a child up to its neck during an eclipse will cure them of their ailments. Here we go, a nice, straightforward, and yet nonsensical British and North American superstition. Say rabbit rabbit as the first words of the month, and you'll have good luck for the next 30 days. If you happen to miss your alarm that morning, do not fret. Just say tibber tibber when you go to sleep. Hint, tibber is rabbit backwards. So it's whimsical. It's like a third grader came up with it for a class project. Why rabbit and not banana or bears? Because rabbits have been a symbol of luck in many cultures for over 2,000 years. Perhaps it's because rabbits use their speed and cunning to outwit predators. According to seedy Times Square hotel rooms built in the 70s, mirrors facing the bed are supposed to be sexy. But according to the Chinese practice of feng shui, it's more like bao chicka womp womp. Mirrors facing the bed are believed to cause nightmares and soul stealing. A feng shui expert explains, when we sleep at night, our soul leaves the body. When the soul sees its own reflection, it gets startled, hence the bad dreams and nightmares. Others say when a soul returns to the body, it may mistake the image in the mirror from the real body, hence the saying of soul stealing. So no matter the circumstances, if you can see your bed's reflection, you are bound for a rough night. Everyone has had a run-in with some party poopers in their day. But due to a particularly outrageous superstition, if you lived in Syria during the 1930s and played with a yo-yo, you ran the risk of encountering the literal fun police. Back then, Syria was experiencing a drought and extreme cold, which was having a disastrous effect on the nation's cattle. And the Muslim chiefs at Damascus believed the downward and upward cycle of the yo-yos were counteracting their prayers for rain. The chiefs expressed their concern over the toy's evil influence to the prime minister, who immediately sent police into the streets to confiscate any and all yo-yos, no matter how good somebody was at walking the dog. So there you have them, the most bizarre superstitions of all time. Maybe you think they're funny, or silly, or ridiculous, or maybe you're extremely stitious and believe everything you just learned. But either way, We can all agree that they're a fascinating look into cultures from around the world. And no matter where you live, whistling can get lost. It's either annoying or creepy and makes certain people feel bad no matter how hard they try, they can't do it. So just quit it.